Is that inevitable time? Yep, I broke it. So, originally, I was just going to try and limp along for a little bit. I'd noticed that the inside teeth on this cog here had actually started to deform slightly. I originally suspected it was manufacturing defect and of the aluminium rod that they'd obviously cut the teeth into. However, I'm pretty certain that's not the reason now why they have deformed slightly. It's probably not the end of the world, but it's not the best thing. I'll explain later on in the video. So I was just trying to limp along a little bit with that on there, and then subsequently I have now got a problem where the motor is actually really rough on turning over. It feels like there's a lot of resistance in there. So it's that time where we're going to strip everything to pieces and have a look what's going on. So first job is strip everything off, and then we're going to pull the motor housing apart and have a look what's going on inside. Just see what's happened here. So we'll split the motor apart, literally leave it up under each of the tabs after I'd got it all the bolts out of there. Back casing came away easy enough, so we can have a look inside. As you can see, one of the phase wires is pretty blackened, right where its temperature sensor comes into the casing, which it's the only phase that's gone. And I did keep an eye on the motor, and it's never run hot, so having had a look into it and how they've run the wire through, there's no sealant or nothing around the wire, and there was a lot of dirt just inside and a little bit of grit. It also looks like something's been rubbing on the cables, so my suspicion is that some dirt's got in there at some point when I've been doing the off-roading stuff, and because that is at the bottom of the motor, and it's just caused one of the phases to short through and basically burn itself out. Should be easy enough to fix on the next motor. Just literally put some sealant in there. Shouldn't be a massive issue, so we shall have a look at that later on and just go from there basically. As you can see though, pretty black, pretty ruined. That's basically what the problem is, so there you go. Let's have a detailed look there, but yeah, as you can see, worth noting that the motor's only done about 100 miles since I got it, so maybe not quite as good as the last one, which is up to about 650, maybe 700 miles without a problem. So, seeing as I burnt out the motor phase on one of the windings, I figured, well, might as well take the motor to pieces and have a look. Minor issue though, this is threaded. Let's see if we can get it zoomed in there. Yeah, there you go. It's not on a wood rough key or anything. To be fair, the laminate is. But I wanted to take it all apart and have a proper look at everything. This bearing's a little bit noisy, so I want to just pop that out and see what condition that's in after 100 miles of heavy usage. So I needed a way of getting it off. I didn't really want to damage the cog here. Thought that'd be useful as a spare in the future. So I'm just going to clamp it in with some timber there so that I don't damage any of these teeth on it. Not that it's actually in the best of conditions anyway. It's just slightly off round. I did mention this to John when I was speaking to him the other week when I was looking at getting the replacement motor brought over. So yeah, I need a tool for the job basically, because there's not an easy way of grabbing this. So I'm going to have a little look and see what I've got that I can just modify and maybe make some way of doing it. I've tried grabbing this every single way. You know, you're just not going to do it with your hands. You're going to need something just to really give it some leverage. I don't really want to clamp it by this because that's going to obviously damage something. So I'm going to have to make something up. So I've got it mounted in the vise now, nice and tight in there. I've got the timber blocks underneath clamping down on it. As I say, it's far too tight. You're not going to be undoing this by hand. You're going to need something with a little bit of leverage on. I was going to try a piece of timber straight over the top here with a couple of bolts going through and just grab on. And then I remembered I have a hillbilly bar from a golf trolley that looks like that. The legs on it, where it was originally mounted onto the main frame, were a little bit wide, so I've clamped that tight. Just re-straightened out the bars. This now fits in here lovely. Drilled a little hole for the shaft to pop into. And it's perfect. Absolutely winner. Drops in like that, and it made it go first time. Nice and easy, it just spins off. So I should definitely be keeping that to hand for future use. A very useful little tool. There you go. Whiz it straight off. So with regards to getting this main motor shaft out, when I split the casing originally, the back piece came away fairly easy from the housing. It literally just screwdrivered off, just leveraged it on all sides as it was coming through. That's the shaft coming out this side. Yeah, a little bit more difficult. For obvious reasons, you can't put it in a vise because the magnets on the back really don't want to do anything other than attach themselves to the jaws on the vise. So I've just mounted it up on some timber, and then your best friend, that's big lump hammer. So it is nearly out now. So we'll have a look at that in a second. So there we go. That's the motor into pieces. Pretty much all its parts. Nothing particularly unusual that I can see. This is obviously a motor that's used for other things because it's actually got a mark there on the shaft ready for keying into other bits and pieces. We can get focus on it. It's pretty standard really. Nothing interesting there. A couple of interesting bits that I have noticed. This bearing, not sure if you'll be able to hear it. It's already a little bit noisy and a bit gritty, so I'm not sure how good those seals are on that bearing. I think what I'll do is I'll probably use this casing now and get some decent bearings off a local supplier. Knock that one out and put some decent ones in, and then I can just refit this straight onto the new motor when it arrives. This belt cog drive here, what I did find interesting is this is just a press fit as far as I can see. I don't particularly want to knock it to pieces, but I can't see that it's keyed inside anywhere. So it looks like it's just been press fitted in and it's just all done under friction, which I thought was quite interesting. This end cap, when I was originally trying to get it off, I was trying to use this as a grab point, just so that I didn't damage the teeth on here. And it actually spins freely now. So I'm not sure on that one. But does the job, it was working fine. Just one of those things really. So yeah. And obviously that was the damage originally to the motor. Which I think was caused by that slot there where the temperature probe went in. Which now looks like that. I think what had happened is this had got a little bit of dirt and water ingress on it, and it had actually just rubbed on here. And that's what's caused it to fail, because the motor never did get hot as far as I noticed in terms of touching it or anything. I never actually connected up a thermal monitor of any description, so I think before I build the bike back up I shall definitely be getting a cycle analyst so that I can just keep an eye on that. One thing that I'm very interested in is actually maybe looking at different cooling solutions for this. Got something in mind for what I'd like to do next. So this is one of the reasons I want to take the motor completely to pieces, just to have a look at its construction and see how I could attach some fittings to it. But that is for another day. Well, everything is now apart. Need a new one of them. Time for an upgrade. This one's a bit lumpy. Don't know how good the seals on it are, or whether it was just a bit of a cheap bearing to begin with. That's out, so I can go get one of those tomorrow. And a slightly better freewheel for here, because there's too much play I think in this. It's not too bad really in the grand scheme of things, but while I'm upgrading everything, might as well just do it. This jack shaft's alright actually. The bearings look decent enough, decent Japanese ones. Probably leave them be for now, can always worry that at a later date. One thing I had originally noticed, and having now stripped it off and actually measured everything, the motor shaft here versus the size of this going on is fractionally out. So I have made some inquiries today about getting a new one of these made somewhere. So hopefully I'll have a price on that in the next few days. Something a little bit tighter onto the shaft. Motor all to pieces. One thing I did find on this, I suspect it might be the end of a large piece that they've actually machined down. I think they make these all as one long shaft and then just chop them up to the size they need. And judging by the way this looks, with it being fatter on this end and slightly out of true here, I can't be bothered splitting all this apart because it is just a press fit through the middle. But this other end looks a lot closer to tolerance than this one. I mean, if you look at the numbers there, there's quite a bit of variation really in something that should be pretty much absolutely bang on. So we'll see about that one. So yeah, it's got to wait for some parts now. Same situation as building up my spare bike. Need more parts. I think I'm missing on that one. There's one of these little 18mm left-hand thread freewheel cogs. This one was a nightmare to get off. We ended up smashing it out with a socket, but it came off in the end. The issue with this is it's just a little bit too soft a metal really for the power I was running through it. What it's actually done is where the teeth back into the centre piece. Completely bent the metal back. Not great surprise with the amount of power I was running, but I was expecting it to last a little bit better than that. My suspicion is that's actually where I've done both of the big cog sets. I think while this has been slipping, I think that force of it smashing onto the chainring is actually enough that that's what's bent them in the end. So yeah, I can't be doing nothing with that at the moment till I can find some of these. So I'm just inquiring in China, and then I think what I'll do is once I get one over here, I'm going to order a couple of spares at the same time, and then take one of these as a complete unit to an engineering firm that I know locally and just get them to knock me one up on their lathe, and then obviously cut it in and make it out of a stronger material. Hopefully it'll last then. The outside tooth set was alright, it was just this piece that's actually damaged. So there you go. There's a little update. No e-bikes at the moment. Shortly though.